Here at the First Last the Nerddom, we love talking movies and television and also accidentally hitting the go live button. But sometimes you have to go back to the source, the panels, the ink, and the pages where so many of these stories have first came to life. That's why we've launched a new show that we call Flipping the Pages with ML and Tom. And this is the series where we sit down with a comic run, a graphic novel, or other legendary storyline and dig into what makes it special: the writing, the art, the themes, and the impact it had on the overall comic book world. And this week, lost my spot. And this week, we're opening up one of the most celebrated stories in DC Comics history, Kingdom Come. Written by Mark Waid, with stunning painted artwork by Alex Ross, Kingdom Come imagines a future where the classic heroes that we know, like Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, have stepped away, leaving the world in the hands of a new generation of reckless and destructive metahumans. When chaos begins to take over, the old guard is forced to return. But the question becomes whether their ideals still have a place in the world that's moved beyond them. We'll be talking about the story's powerful themes of legacy, responsibility, and the meaning of heroism, as well as Alex Ross's iconic artwork that gives the entire book a mythic, almost biblical weight that is so true. So grab the trade paperback, turn the pages, and join us as we revisit one of the most important superhero stories ever told. This is Flipping the Pages with Mel and Tom, right here on the First, the Last, the Nerddom. Boy, that was a mouthful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with that flubbery aside, we'll just go pay the bills real quick here, and this is our website, firstlastnerddom.com, as well as you can find us on the YouTubes, where you can find us at home at firstlastnerddom.com. Up, and there we go. That was my mistake for this show. That's hilarious. Anyway. And then, but we also have Tom, who is living large there on the First Last Nerddom. And what's going on there on the Reddit land, the land of Reddits?
The Reddits, I'm on there, their First Last Nerdum, and I try to promote our stuff on subreddits that will have me, that won't ban me or delete my posts. So there we go. I'm also on First Last Nerdum on X as well. And and I promote our stuff there. So give me a follow if you want to stay up to date on our latest videos. And you're on X as well.
Yes, sir, I am. I am Suffolk King Jewish, or at Suffolk King Jewish _, and you can find me opining on kitty cats, or riding a donkey turned the wrong way or something like that. Been doing that since June of 2012 there in New York City. So if you believe that, then I have a bridge to sell you. Anyway.
Poor donkey.
So what I did want to touch on here as we transition over to our main event here, this thing that we're about ready to talk about. This is this goes along with what we have been pulling in, and was kind of started this little concept show for the DC Compact Comics edition, and then Marvel also has their premiere, whatever where they revisit classic golden
Premiere
Silver
edition,
Age,
yeah.
whatever storylines. Some are more recent than the past, but usually for now, this is true. I think this is generally true. If you don't know anything about anything, I mean, aside from Batman to Superman, you know what those are. You're not going to go wrong if you just randomly pick any one of these DC Compact Comics. Thus far, and we've even dipped a toe into Catwoman. And that's minor. You want to talk about minor character, even minor, more villain, depending upon, major arcs here or there. But that was one of the ones that really kicked it out, to be something more than just a minor league villain or whatever. But no different than here. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, DC Compact comics, they're very affordable, only $10, and they're sized towards the average size of a manga, so it's smaller than the average comic book, highly affordable. This is probably the most affordable edition of Kingdom Come that's been published, very cheap. There you get, it's less than $10 to grab, snatch it up, and like Mike said, go through the DC Compact Library. You'll find something that you'll enjoy, I'm sure. But yeah, these are selling like hotcakes, from what I understand, and hotcakes sell pretty well. So there you go. Uh, yeah, very, very affordable. Marvel has a similar, like you said, with Premiere, their Premiere line. I think they're $15 as opposed to 10. But yeah, you get a complete story. That's the appeal of these. A lot of the complaints of the younger generation is, but I don't know where to start with Batman. I don't know where to start with Superman. There's 1,000 comic books out. I don't know where to start.
Right.
These are sort of bite-sized little introductions to the characters and various storylines. And this one, I haven't read before, but I'll let Mike, since Mike's more familiar with it, I'll let him introduce it, and then I'll let you know my opinion of it
Yeah,
afterward.
yes. Yeah, yeah. So, we for the narrative hook, this is what I love about this, and I distinctly recall when I discovered this and I read it for the first time, and then became one of the classics that I would return to once in a while. Um, throughout for about 2 or 3 or 4 years, I went through a phase like where I when I could, I would just snap up all the best storylines from Superman from any era that I could get my hands on that my local shop had, and they had a lot. And I got a lot, and this was one of my most favorite ones. And the hook here is that you have the old gods are retired, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, the flat, all the ones that are old. And you're set in the near future of Earth 22. Kingdom Come, like it's like kind of a what if, a very, very high quality, well done what if, its own storyline, obviously. But what happens when might makes right really takes over? And you have the new guard are just about, violence, and even worse, the society around them is okay with it. And mercy is seen as like this is seen as a weakness. It's almost kind of like a Judge Dredd, almost. But that's a completely different vibe. You have this, and to kind of set the table a little bit. It was published back in 1996, and this is part of DC's Elseworlds, which was a 4-issue miniseries with writer Mark Waid and artist Alex Ross. It won 5 Eisner Awards in 1987, including Best Limited Series. So it has a pedigree here. And it is one of the more things that it has been continuously in print for the last 28 years. And there's also, no doubt, college theory course staple too. So it hits everything that you could have. And this kind of came in the mid 90s, where you also had, and I know, Tom, you can absolutely talk to this, and I do kind of remember a little bit. I was definitely in the kid, like I wasn't super hard into X-Men and whatnot, but that was my jam for a long, long time. Especially coming of age, like that time frame, it was very, very cool time to have comic books and get comic books, because it was everywhere you wanted it to be when you were a kid, whether it was Saturday morning cartoons or your local newsstand, your local grocery store, or trading it, your trading card games or whatever with you and your friends, your buds. But how about you? Where do you come in on this? Because this was during the mid 90s, the dark age, where you had cable, Spawn, Dark, or you started Image Comics and, more, that nihilism. Where do you come in with your lived experience, Tom, back in the day?
Back in the 90s. Well, yeah, I had never read this, so
Right.
I was never a DC superhero guy. Uh, Superman didn't interest me. I kind of lumped him in with, like, say, Captain America, the patriotic superheroes. I want my superheroes to be a little damaged, a little tarnished. I was more
Hmm.
of the X-Men, Spider-Man who can't get a break. Yeah,
Downbeat versions. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and if I did dip my toe in DC, it was just with Batman. He was
Right.
my jam as first as DC. But in the 90s, just be a little self-indulgent. That's when comic books really exploded during my time. That it became like a collector's market. A lot of people were buying in. There was the whole thing with the death of Superman and various you know stuff like the Spawn. I was never a big Todd McFarlane fan.
Right.
I thought he was more style over substance. He really didn't tell a good story. It was more of, the flashy look of of Spawn and the cool covers. And that's when I got out of Spider-Man because he was doing it. I didn't like how he drew Peter Parker. And yeah, I became disenchanted with superheroes. I went more
Right.
towards the indie comics. When it came to DC, I loved Vertigo, DC's Vertigo line. That's why I'm very excited for Vertigo is coming back with several titles that look very promising that I've been enjoying. You can see a couple of my reviews of a couple of them on our shorts page. But yeah, so I was more I was reading comic books, but I was more turning my nose up at the average comic book reader. I was like, I'm reading the indie comics. I'm reading DC Vertigo. You could go read your superhero comics. You plebeian. I'll read my more intellectual indie comics. So I was very tuned out on superheroes, but I was kind of intrigued by Kingdom Come. I liked Alex Ross's art. That's would be the immediate pull. If no one knew what Kingdom Come was, then immediately the painted artwork of Alex Ross is instantly engaging. You're instantly kind of pulled in. It's like, oh, what's going on here? This isn't your average comic book. So I was always kind of interested in it. But once you get past, the not having read it, you continue not to read it. So yeah, I was happy for the shove that you gave me to finally read it. The past several years since um yeah, there's a tendency for you to go, "Oh, I'll read that later." But when COVID happened and we're all kind of locked in, I go, I'm at the age where that someday is finally come. So I've been really kind of going through my bucket list and going through everything that is like, okay, I finally want to read everything and see everything
Right.
that I've been putting off for several, all these years. So let's finally knuckle down and read this stuff. So I'm glad you kind of gave me that final push to read this.
Yeah, and this is one of the things that I do have on the shelf. This is one of the rare physical media. It's like I cared so much. Again, that came from that multi-year trip back down memory lane to kind of go back through and like kind of take a college course, I suppose, amateurish, semi amateur here, and go through. But this doesn't even do it justice. Like the kind of the artwork, it has a feel of Americana. It has that feel of Norman Rockwell, that not necessarily right on the head of it, but like it just has a certain kind of feeling in this world, to like where there's just the the what has transpired in how the world is completely different and where we left off at. And they open strong with those very big iconic, those big double panels, that kind of sets the stage of like, hey, this isn't just about something small. This is just as big as kind of Superman is, and as popular. There is you hinted at it in the intro. There is a kind of a one-to-one with the Bible, so to speak, or this kind of weight that you get, and that was confirmed by Mark Waid. That this was architecturally built on the Book of Revelations, where you have, I'm not going to go through the name of all the characters and what they do, but I think they give this is a little bit too nerdy, but um, you have this opening with the minister, and then you kind of have this world that's just broken, even more broken than that, and you get to layer by layer, you get to see why and how, and what can Superman do, or these characters do to it, and then something very significant happens. um, and it starts turning toward might makes right versus anyway. I'll throw it back to you to see where you want to go, or
Yeah,
what your thoughts are.
yeah, the opening splash pages, yeah, it gives a sort of like this grandiose stage to it, and then you quickly switch to a dying old man that you find out is Dodd, who was the original Sandman. He's being seen to by his preacher and his minister, and in his final hours together. And so it becomes, is this grandiose thing down to, this quiet moment of a man passing and with his minister. And, surprisingly enough, the minister becomes the main character of this piece. So that, even though it's this grand story about superheroes, it's seen through the eyes of this common man, this man of God, seeing what's transpiring, and just kind of being a sort of a witness to this with the help of the Specter, who's I haven't read much about the Specter, but he's one of those characters I would love to read more about. There's
Same.
a lot of engaging, interesting minor characters in the DC world that I really have much more invested than, say, your main ones. Although those are quite interesting as well. And in the recent years, I've been making up for not knowing much about them. I've read a lot more about the Green Lantern and the Flash, and kind of dipped my toe in some of the other characters. But yeah, so this one, I might not be an expert. So what I say here on this program, you may be able to prove me wrong on this, but I do have some certain takes on this. Yeah, like you said, it's written by Mark Waid, drawn by Alex Ross. Um, and Mark Waid, I was reading, was picked to write this because he knows extensively about the DC universe and history. So he was probably apropos to tell the story. And I think Alex Ross was coming off his big uh, story on at Marvel called The Marvels, and he wanted to do a similar style story for DC, and he gave like a 40-page outline to DC to maybe get this going, and they were taken with this, and they had picked Mark Waid to write it. As I was reading it, I got some distinctive vibes of and I would imagine this was kind of a somewhat of the inspiration for The Boys. It has sort of like
Oh yeah.
yeah, there's like this ultra violent kind of aspect of the metahumans out of control, not giving a care to the common man. They're fighting, and there's a disregard for public safety. Especially this scene right here, it kind of encapsulated what The Boys is about. So I can't help but think that maybe Garth Ennis was somewhat inspired by this and wanted to explore that to the nth degree with The Boys. But yeah, so this is I would definitely say this was inspirational for what we're finding today. I would even say it was inspirational for Invincibles, Invincible
Yep.
comic book by Robert Kirkman. I'm sure he
Speaking
pulled some from that.
Yeah, speaking of that, while we're at it on the comparison shelf, you have this was before or before Kingdom Come was Watchmen in '86, the Marvels in 1994, and then after you had All Star Superman, which we may or may not get into some other time, but did that was in 2005, and then Superman Secret Identity in 2004. So this kind of sits between the fork of between the genre, like where the the concept of hero and anti-hero was actively kind of crossing over and being redefined, and this was pivotal. You're right to
Mhm.
put your. No, I
And
didn't even think about the. Honestly, it's funny that you say that because it's so true. I was thinking more of like kind of the grittiness of the Watchmen, but like more of
Mhm.
like DC, but it's still DC, but they'll only go so far. But DC will go all the way when it's a completely different, that kind of that what if alternative,
Yeah,
whatever,
Elseworld, yeah, I
yeah,
think
and I love that. Yeah,
they call it their Elseworld. A lot of their,
right.
I don't know if it's still active, but they have their black label at DC that tells the Elseworld stories, which sometimes those are my favorite. I used to not like alternate universe stuff because, my thought was ultimately, what does it matter? Because it's not in in the current continuity. So, this is an offshoot. What are you really doing here? But if you're telling I've since learned that, if you tell a really engaging, fascinating story, that's what its purpose is. So yeah, I've kind of switched my understanding. And also, I also want to mention The Dark Knight by Frank Miller was came before this as well, that I'm
Oh
sure
yeah, yeah.
was very influential, highly influential for the Dark Knight, the darker storytelling that came after it, to the benefit or to the detriment of comics, from whatever your opinion is. But yeah, Frank Miller is a force to be reckoned with. Yeah, I as far as the writer Mark Waid, I haven't read a bunch of his stuff just because he's written on characters that I didn't really follow at the time. I know he
Interest.
has
Yeah.
like a big run on the Flash, and in recent years, what I've learned of him as a person, I've since kind of disliked. He's a bit of a bully, so
Mm,
to speak, on Twitter, and from the rumors I've heard, he's a bit
yeah.
of a bully in person, and there was a lawsuit that he was involved with, that where he might have kept the comic book from being published. If those rumors or speculations are to believe. So as a person, I'm not, but that doesn't take away from the story that's being told. I know that Neil Gaiman also has some very bad things that are speculated about him or rumored or whatnot. So and I really enjoy his work, so or some of his work. So it's sort of like you individually have to kind of gauge how much of the person as opposed to the art. Yeah, how much of the person outweighs the art, and
Mhm.
unfortunately, in today's world, you have to deal with that more and more with them being more of a personality on social media. I kind of respect those people, those creators that kind of step away from making wild points online, either one way or the other. That they let their art speaks for themselves and won't engage in arguments with the audience, the fans. I really respect those that just are there for the art in of itself. I'm really very appreciative of that. I just wanted to maybe go off on a tangent on that aspect of it. But that being said, I did quite enjoy the storytelling of this. The one problem I had with this story is that it almost begged I almost wanted it to be about maybe not these characters, because a lot of
Mm,
some of the characters didn't ring true to me. And again, I'm coming from the aspect of only being cursory aware of these characters. I don't know the nitty-gritty of these characters. I haven't
right.
read the full runs, but the Wonder Woman in this story that is portrayed didn't ring true to me as the Wonder
Yeah.
Woman that I
I
have read before.
I I have doing research and compiling some notes for I did surface some criticism about, Mark Waid did regret, a little bit how he was licensed because her kind of being the eternal mercy and peace, that was completely a different version of that, of what that looks like in the most cynical way, if you take it to the extreme, like
Mhm.
literal, like
Mhm.
if you want, pure absolute justice, well, you're not
Mhm.
going to have rights, and everybody's going to be a criminal, and everybody's going to be in jail. It's just going to be a big massive jail. Anyway,
Yeah.
I was going to say too, the story arcs, and I'm just gonna touch on a couple, and you guys can kind of fill in the blanks. But like the fact that you, and this is what I love about, I think comic books uniquely can do this. And not only do you get the theater of the mind, which is unlimited and boundless. Hopefully, if you have a sense of humor and imagination, but not only do you get that, but you also get a visual feast to kind of help you nudge you get there. And you have Superman that is retired. He is absolutely pushed out. He's like, give up, whatever. And then you have Batman, police state, exoskeleton. You have that, and then you have obviously we kind of touched on a bloodthirsty, sword first, shield second, Wonder Woman. I'll put that way. And you can kind of just see the gradient of corruption, or degradation of like kind of where you're familiar with normal Batman, Superman, da, 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 and you kind of see where they're at, or where they're going to, or as they progress from here to there. And some come back and some don't. And that's also the story arc too. And again, I go back to I said to talk about I talked to Justin about this, and I talked to you about it too. But Superman is an incredibly hard character to write well, because he's infinite everything. Okay,
Mhm.
so what did God do today? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like that's kind of like you have to do that. So, but it does also kind of highlight, in a different kind of way, Superman being alien, and but that's just one of many layers that you explore through this, and it's just a great. I hear you. I can see what you mean by like where kind of some characters might have been, maybe forced a little bit harder into that revolution mold, depending upon what part they were playing in the storyline or the story arc, the architecture as it goes. But for the most part, I think it works though, because, again, you're not in the real, you're not on Earth, 616 or whatever the hell,
Eh,
I know that's
actually,
Marvel nerds.
actually, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
actually.
I know Marvel nerds. I know. I was doing it for bait, or maybe anyway, but actually, yeah, you're right. You're right. God knows
Actually.
right, I beg, I'm playing with fire. But yeah, no, you have Lex Luthor, and it also kind of a different take on some of these, kind of things, like where you would kind of expect a certain kind of thinking or feeling from some characters. You don't see that in. I'm not going to go into what specifically, because that would really spoil a lot of things. But I'll just say Lex Luthor. You could easily, if you're a veteran of the Superman, universe, or even in your rotation, even as a second, third, or fourth, or 10th character, all the way down. If you're familiar with that certain kind of give and take with that character and how that's been portrayed over the years. It's very interesting how it just, another layer of interest, that is just very interesting. you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, and this is kinda and we have to realize this was in 1996 where, yeah, it was kinda unique to start giving these different takes on the superheroes. Yeah, if, with each, decade and each generation,
right.
there's a different version of Batman, there's a different version of Superman, and they're constantly being reinvented, and, most of the storylines have kind of, we've been gone through. There's only so many stories under the sun. So, you really have to kinda dig in deep to come up with an interesting take or a different read on a character, and like you said, Superman's, like, super hard to write for, to, find an engaging story about Superman who can do anything. really takes a talented writer. And I'm always there for a talented writer telling an very engaging story. I did enjoy the story. I think also the fact that it's like at this point a legendary story. I might have been blown away by it in 1996 if I had picked it up then.
No,
With
I
all
would have.
Yeah, with all the hype and everything that surrounds it, after decades of not reading it and then finally reading it, I guess I was probably wanting something more that it couldn't live up to. So,
Right.
but it was a very engaging story. It was enjoyable, and like I said, I had problems with the portrayal Superman and Wonder Woman in it. Didn't quite ring true to me as far as who they were as human beings or aliens, so to speak, or gods. And like I said, if they were telling it, yeah, I would have had that problem if these were, replaced by, these generic superheroes that I didn't have these decades of investment in. But then it would have been a completely different story as well. So, but yeah, so I really had to put in my mind that this was an Elseworld, that it wasn't like you were saying the version of these characters. Although the thing about that, I was gonna, I kind of thought about this as I was reading it. One of the things that's really big right now, that's really capture the imagination of both young and old alike, is the Absolute series. That DC's doing that right now with Absolute Superman, Absolute Batman, Absolute Wonder
Hmm.
Woman. They're telling a darker, it's a alternate universe where Darkseid is taken over, and so it's a much darker versions of these characters. But I think that what really makes those work is even with Absolute Superman, they've changed up his origin, a much more darker. Absolute Batman's a much darker character. Absolute Wonder Woman is instead of being raised in the Amazon, um, she's raised in hell. But the what I think I love about that series is even though Wonder Woman's has this dark energy that's been surrounding her,
Yeah.
the fact that she's still a peace loving, always looking for the right way to answer it, looking at the good in everybody.
Not
That
killing.
that yeah, not killing, that sense of her who she is essentially rings true. That's I think that's what makes me love that character, and that's my
Yeah.
favorite of the comics of in that, seconded by Absolute Batman. I think the core of the characters are the same, whereas I think in this, the core of the characters are a little skewed one way or the other, and so there's a disconnect or a sync issue that I'm having with these characters, so that I'm not all in on it. I do appreciate for what it's doing and what it's saying. But there's a disconnect, a fundamental disconnect. Although at the very end, you get the sense of who they are as characters. In that little epilogue at the end, where it circles back to, oh, okay, yeah, these are that's Superman, that's Wonder Woman, that's Batman. That all makes sense. Now, what was happening before that? What caused the the rift there? But yeah, that's my essential take of that. Is that very very engaging, interesting story that doesn't nail the characters.
Yeah.
Although he
No.
does, Batman, I think is rings true throughout this though. They did get Batman right.
Well, I was gonna say too, yeah, with Batman and some of this kind of to call back to modern day that didn't exist back then. This is definitely this was a middle finger to the dark and gritty 90s role, I guess. And I just want to correct the not correct the record, but say it's not like I was not reading this when I was a kid. I was more on the Marvel side of the house with X-Men. And I love Superman. earlier, and that love came back later on. And you like what you like at different stages. But I was going to say
Mhm.
too, this really, and again, this goes back to because it is the Elseworld. This is the liminal space that is weird. That you can have these kind of this permutations of Superman of like, I'm gonna murder everyone, and it's like Mr. Rogers steps in and says, "No, maybe not." A great idea. But it kind of wraps up that way. But this is one of the better storylines of a Superman like that. That is not. A lot of the ones were based a little bit later on in different kind of concepts of Superman being what he is. But anyway, this is like one that I really enjoyed, and I was happy to see that we could cover.
Mhm.
And I don't know that I have too much else other than it goes through a pretty good story arc. And you have an 90s edgelord Magog, and he just he oh, you don't like this guy Joker. This guy is like we'll
Mhm.
see. And then it kind of goes from there, and then it kind of shows the spiral of that. But it is interesting for who kind of plays what part, because I agree with Tom. Maybe some don't fit quite as easily, but there are some that you could easily believe that would be like point blank the Shazam. I think that makes sense. But
Yeah,
um, I'll stop.
Shazam's definitely an
It
interesting
makes
character
perfect
in this.
sense. Yeah, yeah. I mean, because that's absolutely true. That character.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I really enjoyed that part of the story. That was very engaging. The minister part was very engaging as well.
it was.
The character of the Specter was fascinating. I you kind of tantalized you. You wanted to know more about Red
I do want to
Robin.
know more.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
about
wanted
the
to. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, of the various other characters that you didn't have time to really find out much about, like Green Lantern, what was going on there, and what's the deal with Aquaman? But yeah, there's a lot of interesting kind of side characters that you saw that you would want to know more about that you just didn't have time to really get into because you had a kind of a short story to tell. But yeah, those of you that were like me that haven't read it, and you enjoy the boys, I think you'll enjoy this as well.
Agreed.
If you're into the Invincible, this would probably be right up your alley as well. Even if you're not really into, and actually, I think it's probably a benefit if you're not really familiar with the DC characters. You wouldn't
Yep.
have that issue that I had with some of the characters because you aren't really familiar with them. It just tells an engaging story, like I said, about morality and being maybe bigger or like a god, where your morality should lie, and maybe characters that have gone astray and need to find their way back home. Again, I have issues with how far they strayed and whether or not they would have strayed that far, but yeah, the fact that they all come back home is good. Yeah, and like I said, there's a lot of characters that I would like to know more about that. Which is a sign of good storytelling, is that you leave them wanting more. And I'm kind of interested that yeah, especially with Marvel and DC, they tend to beat a dead horse. I'm kind of surprised that they haven't returned back to this world.
Well, I think that we are like with the success of Absolute series. I think that that's got them kind of probably quite a few more years of things. But then at some point, hopefully, there is that hope with James Gunn and with these moves that are making around larger DC, higher, several levels higher up than like little tiny little tiny little DC. Who knows? What you always hope for the best. And there are some aspects of the new DC that I do enjoy and like. But
Mm.
look,
and
it's always fun to go back because these storylines are always there, and I wish that they would use them more. And I will say one thing about DC does way better than Marvel ever would, at least on the silver screen when it comes to animated movies where they go back and they do this storyline. Maybe it's chopped up a little bit to fit, but for the most part, all of those are always a solid hit that I will again, reference again and again and again, because it's a great B. It's not, maybe not, it's not the A. It's definitely not a C. It's definitely not a D or an F or a garbage modern F things that we get today. But like a good solid B, you're gonna enjoy it. Even more so, like what Tom says. If you have no connective tissue other than like, oh, Superman, oh, is that the guy in the blue underwear? Okay, you know, kind of joking, but
The tidy underwear, but yeah,
yeah, Christopher Reeve Superman, yeah, yeah, like classic Superman.
yeah, and you also have to keep in mind that Paramount's just bought Warner Brothers. We thought it was gonna be Netflix, but it is Paramount, so that's the wrench in the works to
I don't
see.
know what's worse. I don't know, Tom. What do you
Yeah.
think? What do you think's what's worse? Netflix had if Netflix had owned them, or if this one Paramount. What do you think is worse or better?
uh,
I don't know. We didn't
well,
really talk about that, but we might as
yeah.
well.
I think Netflix is the worst because yeah,
Yeah,
you wouldn't have got the physical media anymore. Paramount at least would still they still have a foot in the door of physical media, and
a film
although
vault
yeah.
too as well. Yeah,
Yeah, but there's I think probably good and bad. And anytime, yeah, I'm very much against these massive corporations buying each
Omnicorp.
other. Yeah, Omnicorps, yeah, kind of buying themselves up because that's always bad. It's always better to have competition. But with Paramount, you got the idea that maybe the Warner Brothers brand will go away. It'll all go under the Paramount umbrella, whereas Netflix would probably keep the Warner Brothers label just for maybe the fact that it has some prestige to it. Whereas Netflix is its own thing. So they would have kind of a dual property kind of deal. But with like Paramount, I can see where they would might keep the HBO brand because that's kind of has a little bit of prestige to it. But I can see where all the other stuff gets wrapped up under Paramount, and you got all these properties that might get shuffled around and maybe get lost in the shuffle. So that may be a bad thing. But yeah, I think for like say physical media, it's a good thing. But yeah, again, most time when you dealing with corporations, you got some evil mother effers up there. So, never.
Yeah.
But yeah, the fact that maybe they'll keep James Gunn in charge of DC branch of things. I hopefully that'll keep things on the right path. If they start mucking around with it, because it might become a disaster. But we'll see.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think you're right. As much as I do like or love aspects of Netflix being a technology company, that they really are, they don't have a great track record, and we have been bitten a few times by
Alright.
megacorps buying this and then it just becoming a lone little property out on a rundown part of the backyard, or it gets even worse from that point. So this is the rare case where you'll hear me say, and there's nothing wrong with Hollywood people per se, but probably better to have maybe a little bit better chance of Hollywood people who actually do understand and respect film. Because I do agree. Had Netflix bought them, you would have hastened the cinema's demise. Maybe not 100%, but we used to have big malls and everybody had a Sears at their local food court just off the food court, or whatever. But those days are gone, and those again, these are things that turn with time. But you hope for the best. But anyway, speaking of that, you can always pull down a great novel or a great graphic novel here. Then and you don't even got to worry about what an issue. What issue was it in the fall of '96 and the fall of '87? I'm kind of joking, but it's not really that bad. It used to be that bad, but not anymore. But I've been Mike.
Oh, and I
Oh
was
yeah, yeah,
gonna
sure. Go ahead. Sorry. Yeah, yeah,
add one
please.
more thing. This might have been better with our plug for our Mr. Robot section. I do have since we were talking about Netflix, I do have a hack for you. A little life hack with Netflix. I was I hadn't been really watching much with HBO Max and Netflix. So I was like, okay, I might cancel them for a while to see what's going. Yeah. So I went to cancel Netflix, and they were like, whoa, wait. And they gave me this feature called pause, where you can just pause your subscription without canceling it. So so yeah, if you have Netflix and been paying for it, but aren't really engaged with it right now, hit the pause button. And then although I found out that when I paused it, I started getting a lot more emails from Netflix saying, hey, you know this show, we got this show. Another thing with but when I went to cancel HBO Max, they were like, wait, and they said, hey, we could give you that same thing that you're getting right now for 3 months at half price. I was like, okay, I'll go with that. I'll go with your half price deal. So yeah, I got that same deal with Apple when I went to cancel them, but there wasn't anything on there that I wanted to watch, so I went ahead and canceled. But if you're really kind of frustrated with the price of your streaming service, go ahead and just hit that cancel button and see what they
Yep.
offer you. That's my life hack for you, because you might
I-
get it cheaper
I'll,
for a few
I'll
months.
I'll echo that. I got 2 years of Paramount Plus at $60 per year, and it happened exactly, kind of same thing. It's like, nah, I'm done. I kind of did it a few months ahead of time, because I try to, if I can get a deal at a year, around Black Friday, or sometimes in the summer, you'll catch a deal or whatever. Like, I'm all for it. Like, I'll be down for it. But like, some of these guys have cranked their prices up to like ridiculous levels, and I got news for you, man. No, like we were just barely tipping over the line when you were giving me a deal on the big price before, and then you like double it. I don't think so. Like I'm joking about like kind of how high they go, but them fucking prices ain't going down tomorrow. At best, you'll get like a shit ad tier or something like that, or like it is what it is. But
Mhm.
but if you're already at that point, guess where you can check in at? Tubi or Roku, or numerous one, or Kano, or the Canopy, that one, like even your public library card. So you can thank
Mhm.
God there's still options out there. But
Yeah,
anyway, I was
yeah.
gonna say I
I've been watching way more on Tubi and Canopy than I do on
yeah.
the regular streaming. So
Uh,
yeah, I was like,
Same here for Roku for me, because it's just there, and I'm familiar with it.
mhm.
Um, anyway, I've been Mike.
Yeah, and we appreciate the little tangent that you'd let us
Yeah,
stay on. And if you've stayed this far with us, you might like us. So give us a like, a subscribe, and ring that bell for notification. And I'm Tom, your favorite shill, and I'll see you next time.
take care.
Later.